Tonight we have an audience of 36, mostly undecided voters, or at least they were when they started, maybe not anymore, who with just 34 days until the presidential election, I think some of y'all are still looking for answers, right? You're still looking to see where some of these people stand on things that matter to you. Now, my first question is, how was this debate tonight? I'll ask for a show of hands. Did tonight's debate between Republican vice presidential nominee Senator J.D. Vance and Democratic nominee Governor Tim Walz sway the needle for you? Is there anybody here that heard anything tonight that you thought, that's what I've been waiting to hear? I've been waiting for somebody to clear this up for me, and all of a sudden, I get it. I now know what differentiates these two sides. Anybody hear anything that really swayed you tonight? If you did, raise your hand. If you didn't, raise your hand. If you would have rather been watching a rerun of the Three Stooges, I mean, was this a waste of your time? What did you get out of this? Just raise your hand and tell me what you got out of this, if anything. Stand up, say your first name.
Yeah, I'm Patrick. It was nice. They were nice to each other. They were civil, and I ended up liking Vance a little bit more than I had before. It was a really pleasant debate, and it was good to hear differing opinions that seemed to be civil to each other.
Yeah, how many of you agree that this was more civil than what you've been hearing? Okay, everybody agrees with that. All right, did you find that appealing? Did you like that? If you did, raise your hand. If you thought, nah, they're just milquetoast worms, raise your hand. Okay, you didn't like that, okay.
My name is Tawana. I heard a lot of decent things. Student loans is one of the most crushing, debilitating debt that is killing America. And I heard no candidate talk about that. That's pressing on my mind. That's pressing on my family. That's pressing on housing and a lot of important issues and things in my household. And yeah, I didn't hear anything about that. So that's really on my mind.
Everything you just said, and you're right, nobody talked about student loans or how that's going to be handled, but everything you just said seemed to have a common thread of affordability. And they did talk about that some. How important is affordability to everyone here? If that's in your top 2 or 3, raise your hand. Okay, affordability is important. And stay with me for just a second. Did you hear anything about affordability that made you feel like one side or the other is more interested in meeting you where you are in dealing with your challenges than the other?
Yes and no. So I heard a lot about blaming migrants and all of that. What is the solution? I live close to downtown Dallas. Homelessness is absolutely crazy. And what are the solutions? I mean, housing that there's empty buildings. They keep building luxury apartments, luxury places. Where are you putting these homeless people? Yes, I'm not homeless. These people here are not homeless, but it's not just, oh, that's not my problem. It's an American problem. It's a worldwide problem. What are we doing? And I don't know if I've heard enough from either side about that. Healthcare as well too. It's pressing.
Well, joining us now is top behavior analyst Scott Rouse from the Behavior Panel. Now, Scott, you watched tonight's debate really closely. What was your general feeling about the two candidates in terms of their preparedness, their composure, and how well you think they connected with the viewer?
We saw opposites, polar opposites. They were both prepared, but one is not as good at being a debater as the other, not as relaxed.
Okay, hold on. Who do you think he's talking about? He says one of them is not as a relaxed debater as the other. So you think one is more skilled at debating?
Oh, very much so.
And how many of you think that's J.D. Vance? How many of you think, no, he's talking about Walz? Just you? All right. See, what am I going to do with you? All right. So who was the more experienced and relaxed debater?
J.D. Vance. Very smooth movements. His illustrators, when we illustrate, that's how your brain emphasizes specific words and phrases, like I did just then, specific words and phrases. And when he makes his illustrators, they're right on the money, right on time. And when they go away slowly. They're very smooth. Whereas you look at Walz, his are very fast and very, very quick, and his arms stay close to his torso.
What's that mean to you?
That, to me, when I'm looking at a behavior that is trying to decide if somebody's if they're open or confident, and you see this, that's not good.
Okay, because they're tucking in for protection,
yes,
right?
Yes, they're tucking in for protection.
They're in here. And Vance has given a lot more interviews than Walz and Harris combined, so maybe he's gotten a little more comfortable under fire.
Sure looks it.
Do you think it helped him get his message across?
Very much so, especially
Really?
in a couple of spots we'll talk about.
Okay, you want to show us what they are?
Yeah.
All right, let's go. You want to go over to the screen here?
Yeah, let's take a look.
All right, show us what you got. This is Vance, where you say he does come across as confident here.
Yes.
Does that mean he's more believing what he's saying?
Oh, yes. This is someone who is a true believer, who believes in what he's saying, being completely honest with what he's saying, nothing to hide at all.
All right.
So,
and what are we looking for?
So what we're going to look for, we'll look for the head tilt as this section right in here of his head. We'll look at that and we'll say, okay, well, what's happening? As he's talking, it looks like he's listening. When we listen, our head tilts a little bit and that right ear comes forward a little bit. When he's looking at Walz, what we're seeing here, we're seeing this begins panic almost because he doesn't know what to say. See how he backs up there and he's thinking? This is called the grief muscle. Right in that area there, that's a horseshoe style. When your forehead comes together in an upside down horseshoe, that's the grief muscle. He's not sure. Right there it is, right there. Perfect. So
when you say grief muscle, what are you saying that he's saying to himself right now?
He's worried. He's a little panicked, and he doesn't know what's going to happen next. He's got the idea of what he wants to say, but he doesn't know exactly what he's going to say. Okay. But he has the concept.
All right.
He's doesn't have it down yet.
Okay.
So, and his blink rate, because you're always fascinated with blink rate. Let's check out Vance's blink rate compared to Walz's blink rate.
All right, is this in clip 2?
Oh, sure.
All right, blink rate, is this where you're looking now?
Yes. This is up for him, because as he's thinking, your eyes will blink. But as your stress goes up, people blink anywhere from 15, 20 times a minute. And here we're seeing that's about right for here. But that's about right for his blink rate. And over here, he's not even talking, and we'll see his blink rate skyrocket in just a couple of seconds there. So keep an eye on that. But at the same time, here are the illustrators I've been telling you about. He doesn't do anything unique, and these are all classics that a lot of people do. So he hasn't been out rehearsing which ones to use. He uses the classics, this one, the karate chop, and the framing stuff. So everything there is fine, and everything lands on the money. When the words he's emphasizing, those hit on those words, and that's really important.
Okay, now we want to see the blink rate here. Can we roll this back just a little bit, or is it still to come on this?
Okay.
All right, here we go. All right, so when you see a high blink rate, it means somebody's under a lot of stress.
Right, a lot of stress. Unless you see them, unless they're fearful, where we see some of that as well. His eyes are wide, and notice how slow his eyes blink right there, because we call that shutter speed. You're hearing something or seeing something that you don't agree with or don't want to hear or see. We call it eye blocking as well. But that's what we're seeing when his eyes blink really, really slowly. So this is fear here. It must be in another clip I'm talking about where his speed up.
Yeah, well, no, I see the fear that you're talking about here.
Yeah, grief muscle, the whole.
Yeah, people think when they're lying, they won't look at you in the eye. Sometimes they just stare at you like a dead trout. So they're afraid to look away. Let's talk about the next one.
All righty.
All right, this is the third one. And this is a clip where Governor Walz and Scott says he's being deceptive.
Yes, at the end, we're going to see as he says this phrase, he says, people are getting what they need. That's the last thing he says. And when he does that, you'll see this left shoulder go up right there. You'll see his left shoulder go up, and you'll see that chin point toward his shoulder. So that's what's going to happen when he does that. There it is, right there. Now, there are no scientific studies that show that means you're being deceptive. There are none. Because when I train law enforcement in the military, I have to tell them from the studies of what I know, so I don't give them some information that might get them killed because I feel like it's something that's important. There are no studies that show that. However, every time I've ever seen it, and a couple of FBI agents that I know have seen that, that's how we started talking about it, that has always been a deceptive cue. They've always been being deceptive. When you see that shoulder come up and the chin go toward the shoulder. So what this tells me here is he doesn't believe what he's saying there. He knows that's not true, or he knows it himself doesn't believe it to be true. So that's what we're seeing there. That's why that's really
That's what
important.
you see when you go.
Yeah, you get that thing. I don't know. I don't know where we're going.
All right, you're scary.
So.
All right, now things got a little heated, and here's an example of Senator Vance taking control of the situation. Show us this clip.
This is a masterful taking over the conversation. When the moderators try to stop him.
Margaret, thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn now to the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
the rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on.
Pay attention to that. All right.
Tell us about that.
What he did here was masterful because he took over. As they're trying to shut him down, he sticks this up, which is called a regulator. Regulators are what you use when you're trying to control a situation. Slow something down, speed something up, you stay there, you come over this way, you all do this. Those are regulators because I'm trying to control what's going on. A lot of times when someone starts to, when you're trying to shut somebody down, you'll step up and go, wait. That makes the person, that ramps him up. He does his very slowly. He comes up like this and just sticks his hand up and starts speaking softly, and then gets louder as he goes. Not a lot louder, but loud enough where they can hear him and they know there's no way out of it. And he keeps speaking. And so he took control of the conversation at that point, and they were listening to him.
Okay, now the next one is China. Hong Kong, when he's talking about was he in Tiananmen Square or not.
Right.
And he said, were you there or were you not?
Right.
And what do you want to look for in that?
Oh, I'm going to look for the things that tell us we know he wasn't there. And this, I'll put all my money on this. And we're going to see fear, we're going to see panic, we're going to see shame, and the grief muscle as well. So we'll throw everything's in this one.
All right, let's take a look and we'll listen.
You said you were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen Square protests in the spring of 1989. But Minnesota Public Radio and other media outlets are reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until August of that year. Can you explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, well, and to the folks out there who didn't get at the top of this, look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights come on, and I'm proud of that service. I joined the...
Yeah, as that head goes sideways, that's panic, because he's not sure how he's going to defend this. He knows the question's coming, so he's got something ready, but it's not coming out the way he thought about it. So he's got inner dialogue going on. He's thinking about it. That's why I see that head turn, those eyes get really, really wide. I know what that looks like. That's what's happening there.
Yeah, and you see the grief muscle again here.
Yes. The upside down horseshoe right there. And the rest of this is panic. We see his eyes doing this. That's panic. And this, I know. And these up here, usually we look at that and we say, well, that's disgust or whatever. But this is a panic mode. See how his head's coming forward and his chin is up like that? He's trying to get that out as fast as he can. And this is one of the only illustrators we see from him as he's talking. And this is the one that's come out further from his body than anything else, because he's trying to make sure I want you to believe me. You got to believe me. That's what we're seeing, the panic here in that. Wide eyes, grief muscle, and everything's far out.
Let's finish the clip here.
Guard at 17, worked on family farms, and then I used the GI Bill to become a teacher, passionate about it, a young teacher.
I was curious on what the gentleman's thoughts were on the border as far as reinforcing it, or you were talking about how families were being separated, and what was your thought on that, on how to fix that situation?
I believe that situation should be dealt with diplomatically through legislature, not through military intervention, because especially putting it up to the states, our state for one, Governor Abbott, is clearly very anti-immigrant, illegal or legal, and making it harder for people to get legal citizenship only causes more people to come in illegally. And there has been pretty detailed instructions from the Biden administration trying to fix this problem, but it has been vetoed at the Supreme Court level because of Trump's administration. He put those people in power to veto Democratic and more progressive options whenever But instead, he's just trying to say, okay, we'll have the military do mass deportations. And when you do stuff like that, historically speaking, that is dangerous for
You probably feel like maybe, possibly, that it's for their own protection as well. Not just ours, but for theirs as well.
How so?
So a lot of times when they come over here and they're illegal, when he said that a lot of people aren't being mules, he did make that comment. It's not so common anymore. It actually is, and he wouldn't know because they're crossing illegally. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So he was incorrect, and most people that would say that are incorrect because we don't know, right?
Sure.
And a lot of times, it's not only sex trafficking. These kids are being, within my community, and I am Hispanic, there's a lot of organs being sold. There's a lot of children being sold to get impregnated and then using the stem cells. There's all kinds of situations going on, and it's not being
No, and I know there is
popular.
definitely people.
But what I'm saying is that our military, which I am a vet, and that just says that we do have duties to do a lot of times,
Sure.
and a lot of times we do question it, but we know that there's a lot of thought put into some of those situations, right? So by us enforcing our wall and keeping them away, we're actually saving them. We're actually helping them, and we're helping ourselves as well, because I'll tell you what, majority of the people that are crossing over, it's not for good reasons.
There are legal and there are ways to do
Absolutely.
things legally and right in this country if you want to.
Yes.
If you want to. I came here and I did it the legal way, the right way. There's a way.
Then you know how hard it is.
It's hard,
How
but
long-
I'm not carrying my kids across the border.
My mom spent 5 years trying to get her green card. She's been here for 50 years. She had to renew her green card. She couldn't go back to Mexico for 5 years. She couldn't visit her family because if she did, she wouldn't have been able to come back. Because it's so hard. It takes so long for people to be able to do that.
Possible.
It
It's
is.
possible.
It absolutely is.
It's possible.
But it takes
Everybody
a
doesn't
long
have
time.
everything handed to them.
Not
I'm
everybody
sorry.
has
I'm
the
sorry.
time.
Everybody doesn't have
Not
everything
everybody
handed
has
to
the
them.
time to be able to do something like that.
I served in the military to get my citizenship. Did she do that?
My
Did
mother
she do
came when
that?
she was 4
Did
years
the person
old.
who went back to Mexico and needed that, did they do that? Because they handed that citizenship to me because of my service.
Okay, what else? Anything that didn't come up that you wish they would? Because listen, they'll be watching this. Yes, ma'am. Just hand her that mic if you would.
I would have liked to hear some things about equality. I don't think we're talking enough about the problems that we have created in our country over race, LGBTQ issues, intersectionality, where those things kind of cross into each other. Because we've been so polarized, I think we're having a hard time coming together again. And I think we see that in Congress. I really want to see someone bring people together and solve problems, at least after the election's over. And I'm worried about our future of our country because I don't think we know how to do that anymore.
Well, I will weigh in on something that I haven't weighed in on so far. And that is, I don't think we're nearly as polarized as the media would make us believe we are. Anytime I sit down to talk to or negotiate with someone or teach negotiation, one of the first things that I always do is say, let's focus on what we agree on first. We have time for our differences, but let's talk about what we agree on first. And I think the media, because it sells if you have conflict, it sells if you have people making sparks, it sells if you have people throwing out sound bites that are easily repeatable. It doesn't sell so much if you conduct yourself like these two candidates did tonight.